Good morning.
Good morning.
Here we go. Kicking it off live, the entrepreneurial journey. I'm Dave Wescott, CEO of TransBlue. This is Todd Chapman, Vice President of Franchise Operations at the TransBlue Franchise Company. And you're behind a brick wall somewhere.
I am. Yeah,
Are you in the
I could,
bank
I could be
hall?
anywhere. No one knows where I am right now. Yeah, I could be, preparing for March
Are you
Madness.
getting your money out of the bank?
And so, yeah, that's right. I am. Yeah, making all the calls. That happened last week though. So
Okay. Funny story. My wife went to Chase Bank to get some cash out of the bank, and they're all out of cash. They said no cash.
seriously,
It's true story.
wow.
True story. Chase said there's no cash in the bank, so time management, what you do with your time is really really important, and maybe getting cash out of the bank is the thing to do. I don't know. I'm not
That's
the
right.
one to be told, but with the financial collapse of the world, I can tell you that yesterday Chase Bank had no cash in the bank.
Wow. Okay. Well, that might
That's
change the priorities and the goals as you're defining it to determine how do you spend your time and prioritizing that. So, yeah.
time management. This is one of my favorite topics, and not to start the call out on a sour note, but I think we had a couple of comments from last week's call that Ralph was going to toss in here, and that we were going to chat about and acknowledge just as they came in at the end of the show. So, Ralph, when you're ready, cue those in. But up until then, time management. So, what's your time worth? And I'll liken this to today. I didn't plan this way, but today is March 14th. Today is the day my father-in-law passed away. And my father-in-law was about 62, 63 when he passed. Amazing man of God, amazing business owner, owned multiple businesses, one of the largest insurance businesses in the Pacific Northwest, entertainer coach business, traveled rock bands all over the U.S. Very, very successful. There was so many people at the funeral, they couldn't even fit them all in. It was like at this huge church, and it was like standing room only, and people were, they had to turn the TVs on in other areas, and there was just so many people, thousands of people came to his funeral. Just an incredibly loved man. And so today's the day he passed away. And he passed away, 62, 63. I think he was 62. But he was driving up to his farm to feed the animals, and boom, he was hit and killed by a drunk driver. And drunk driver took his life and hit him at, 60, 70 miles an hour, something like that. And you think about that, and he had just purchased the farm maybe a year and a half before, and to feed the animals, and it's kind of the place to retire and so forth. And you think about how you spend your time. And just like the banking crisis that walked out on Friday, you never know how things change so fast in a blink of an eye, right? All of a sudden, things are going on as normal. It's like, now we're in banking crisis. Oh, things are going on as normal. Oh, now we're in COVID crisis. Oh, man, things are going on as normal, going up to the farm to feed the animals and gone. Your whole life changed in an instant. And the thing about time management is that life is precious. And I think that as you look at your time management, an important piece of time management is building your life into that time management solution. What's important to you. And I think that, as the older as I get, the more years go by, the more people I see pass away, the more struggles I see happen, the more I realize, right? It's not about just working away all my hours. It's not about just, having my head down, building a business, even though I work a lot and even though I'm committed a lot, time management comes into play. And so Todd and I are going to look at it from a couple of different perspectives. I'm going to look at it from an employer standpoint and a business owner standpoint. And that's the way that I'm going to look at time management. Todd's going to look at it as a franchise support partner and as an employee. So he's going to wear two different hats, and I'm going to wear the hat of an owner. And so we're going to have different views that we bring to the table. So Todd, when you think about time management, and the title is Time Management, what's your 168? And the reason we put that, there's 168 hours in every single week. And so Todd and I are going to bounce back and forth, but I just want to break this down for you just real quick. So time management, we sleep how many hours in a week?
Depends who you are and
Depends who you are.
and what's going on in the moment. But if you go off of what's recommended, what is 7-8 hours, right, is what's recommended for most people, to function. Now, given the status of where you may be in the business or in your job, that may vary, right, depending on what's going on. But if you just use, let's just say 7-8 hours, then.
So 7-8 hours. So 8 hours would be basically 56 hours in a week. So we know out of our 168, 56 of them are done, right? Let's just say. And then if we work for another, just call it 8 to 10 hours, we'll just call it 9 hours, right? That's another 45 hours gone, right? So that's 101 hours that are off the clock. What do you do with the rest? What do you do with the rest of your time? You got 67 hours left. Well, some of us have a commute, so we'll kill another 5 hours there, right? And then we got to get ready for the day. We got to get things moving, take care of responsibilities we have. So we're going to kill another 5 hours there. So now we got 57 hours left to do whatever we want with every single day. And so if we take that 57, divide it by 7, that gives us 8 hours a day to basically do what we want with. But it doesn't seem like that, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I mean, does it
No.
feel like you have 8 hours of free time every day?
No, it doesn't. It feels like a couple hours is what I would say. And I don't know. I mean, talking to the majority of the people, I feel like that's how they feel, right? The question is why do you feel that way?
Yeah. So it's true, right? Why do you feel that way? It's because, like for me, I get up at 5 and then I go and work out and there's an hour gone. So I just lost another 5, right? I lost another 5 hours a week. And then I go and I pray and meditate and get ready for the day. So I just lost another 5 hours, right? So now I'm another 10 hours down, right? And then in these times, I got to eat breakfast and I got to eat lunch and I got to eat dinner. So now I lose, another 90 minutes a day, right? So, I'm down to, I'm losing hours as we're going because now I lost another 10 hours. So now I'm down 20 and a half hours off of 57. So now I got 37 hours left. And that gives me now 5 hours a day. Now that's kind of getting more down into the time that I feel like it. Now we got kids and we got other responsibilities. What's happening now? Kids' sports are brutal. They take so many hours.
Yes, they do.
Right? So the thing is, your time goes so fast and it just gets eaten by all of these little things. I call my dad. I try to call my dad every day. It's one of my goals in life. Call my dad every day. Well, that's 30 minutes every day. My dad's 90 years old. So he's got a lot to talk about. You know what I mean? Which is cool. But that's another 2.5 hours a week. And so you start to look at all of the time commitments that you have. Now, let's just talk as a business owner. I put a post on LinkedIn last week and I said I worked 87.5 hours just Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday morning, I think I worked 4 hours. And on Sunday morning, I worked like 2 hours, so another 6 hours. So just call it 93 hours in a week. 93 hours of my 168. And I still got to fit in working out. And I still got to fit in prayer and reading the Bible. I got to do all the things I normally got to do, right? So where does the time come from as a business owner? And then how do you feel fulfilled? And so, you know, as a franchise coach, what do you talk about with your franchisees when you're talking about work-life balance and don't getting too carried away? And what do you talk about? What are some of your coaching tips?
Yeah, no, and I think you hit on it. I mean, obviously, I think you step back, and at first, I think as entrepreneurs, as business owners, I think, excuse me, I think the biggest step right now is stepping back and really defining and prioritizing the goals, right? Both in business and in life. You know, what are the goals you're striving for? So I think starts there. You know, and you mentioned, hey, you know, where do you want to be? And I think the reason you go into business is to define where you want to be as in your life and as a business owner, where you're leaving, hey, the rat race of corporate America. You want to have more freedom. You know, that's why people join a franchise is that goal of whether it's owning a business or getting out of the corporate structure and really defining it, which goes to time management and having a lot of times like, hey, so I can enjoy freedoms of time with my family down the road and have some flexibility. Now, the reality is when you come into the business early on, and a lot of our franchisees are, you know, in their first few years of business, I think two things. When there's not a defined role of like, hey, what's this time look like? No one's sitting there as a business owner telling you what you need to do every single day. So I love this topic because I think a lot of business owners struggle with this. And I think people struggle with it naturally to say, hey, where should I define my time? What does my time management look like day to day? And what activities should I be doing or tasks every single moment to drive towards this goal? And what you find, and I love Stephen Covey's quadrants, you know, is pretty common in business ownership. And what you find, and what I find talking to franchisees, is you get going, and even if you have a good idea of diving into the business, where you want to be and what those goals are, whether that's, hey, here's the revenue goals I have, here's my sales plan for the year, you know, and then in life as well, you can do that same thing. Like, hey, what do we want to be? Where do we want to be as a family, or if with my wife? You can define those every year, and people do that. But what often happens is you get going and the unexpected may happen, right? And you get into the business. A lot of business owners are firefighting, right? As Stephen Covey would call the quadrant one, where you're just reactive as a business owner, and you're fighting, you know, again, just with customer issues, with employee issues, you know, that are coming up in the business. And even if you have that defined goal, as you're coming into the day and weeks, you get distracted with just business, you know, and depending on what type of staff you may have, can you delegate certain tasks and certain priorities, right? So my coaching a lot of time is defining, okay, where are we? And do it. My first suggestion to any of these business owners or franchisees is do a time dump, you know, do an audit of yourself right now. You know, so what does that time look like? So sit there and define, okay, whether like you just did, right? Here's where I am with sleeping on just a task, but what in the business side of things, what are we doing each day, and take a hard look at it. And at the end of the week, where does that fall into the goals and the business? You know, do we feel like the tasks that we're doing is bringing value to the business and actually pushing you towards the goal? So I think the first thing is kind of doing that time dump and time audit. and see
I love
how does
that.
that fit into the business goals that you're defining or have defined. And hopefully you've taken the time to do that. If you haven't, then let's step back and really look at, okay, what are the business goals? What are your life goals? And then are the activities lining up with that, right? If you were the fly on the wall and watching you all day, let's just be honest and look at that. Is this a task that I'm pushing towards, or is this just wasting time,
Yeah.
or spinning my wheels? Because at the end of the week, the end of the day is the end of the year. You're looking back and say, man, did I push towards it, or did I kind of stay where I was, or hey, maybe you fell back, and then you adjust accordingly. So I think it starts with the overarching goal, and then time dump, and then you can redefine what activities and prioritizing, because you got time management and priority management. I would look at it as two different things, because you can define time, but is it the right priorities, within that time management?
So I love that, because that's kind of feeding into just some thoughts that I had, and time management. So, and priority management. So priorities are what we defend, right? Like our calendar. We are going to defend our calendar. Hey, Todd, can you hang out tonight? Oh, you're going to say, well, let me check the calendar. Oh, the kids got basketball, and my wife wanted to have dinner, and you're going to decide right there whether you're going to defend those things, or whether you're going to say, no, I'm going to bump those things and go to dinner, right? So we're going to defend what's on our calendar, and that's priorities. And our priorities should be detailed out on our calendars. And if we're really managing time correctly, we live and die by those calendars. My wife said, hey, are you going to go to this sporting event? And I said, I don't know. It's not on my calendar, and I've got something else planned for you. It didn't get on my calendar, right? I got to see. It's not on my calendar. So I live and die by my calendar, even internally. But I think like what you're talking about too is like time, right? So, and how do we utilize our time? And as a business owner, as an employee, just as a quick question to you, how many emails do you think you get in a given day?
That's a good question. I would say probably 70 to 80, something like that.
70 to 80 emails in a day. Okay, cool. And, I probably get in the 100, 150 range, right? So, maybe about double of what you get. And so here's what I know just about time. Like, I can have all of my tasks for the day lined out, and I can have what I want to accomplish lined out for the day. But we know what happens, right? You get that email or you get that phone call, and now you're off track, right? Okay. So one of the things that I notice is that I can sit there all day at my computer, and I can answer and respond to emails from the time I walk in the door to the time I leave. I can be super productive. I can get a lot done, but I can do that and not accomplish a single task on my list. I can also be at work, and I can have emails come in while I'm working on a project, and I stop the project and I go and I answer the email, and I kind of rabbit hole, and then I get back to the project, and a project that should have taken an hour ends up taking 2 or 3 hours because I was checking emails in between. And that's where time management really comes into play, where my motto is when I'm working on a project, I actually turn my email off. Because I know that in an hour, it's going to rack up, 21, 25 emails. I'm going to have to come back. I'm going to have to answer those, whatever's going on. But I know that if I am dedicating my time to my business tasks that I've set out to accomplish, and I can attack those without the distractions of business coming in, then I know I'm going to be much more successful at achieving those, which comes down to the task management. Like, I'm not going to live and die in my email. I can't do that. I've also got to spend time on culture and time communicating, right? So like when I go in, that's how I'm going in to focus my time at work. And I like to say, what are your 3 targets? And so you have 3 targets for the week. And so all I'm trying to do is accomplish 3 things for the week. Like this week, I've got a large banking partner and a large retail client that are going out for bid in a few months. So I want to make sure that site measurements are on point. I want to make sure that Nexus taxes are taken care of and on the forefront of what we have going on in the business. So, those are 2 of my targets for the week, right? So I'm going to dive in and make sure what are the things that I have to get done. Oh, I got to get 5 SOPs done this week. That's on my list of targets. Standard operating procedures. So I'm always looking at those things. So I have my targets, and I know that during the week I need to get them done, and then I utilize my calendar. That's how I stay organized during the day and get the most out of my time so that I am the most productive. How do you stay? What are your tips for staying productive?
Well, I
on
think
your
that's wise. I mean, is that review each day, right? And as you're going into it, a guy that I knew, or I know, he has 9 businesses. And I remember earlier in my career, when I first started franchising, got to know him. He's got all sorts of businesses ranging, from wedding DJing to insurance to business consulting to keynote speaking. And I remember talking to him, and he was running all these 9 businesses at the same time, and just a serial entrepreneur. And I remember just asking him, how do you prioritize yourself? How do you manage your time? And I remember I flew down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I wanted to spend the day with him and just see firsthand, what does a day look like for him, and how does he do this? Because he's successful. He's ran many businesses and built them and continues to do so. And he's successful this day. And I remember walking in the morning, and he just like he works out super early. It was a 4:45 wake up call in the gym. We're in there busting it. I just spent the whole day with him doing what he is, basically just shadowing that. And I remember when we went into the office and he opened up his calendar, and this thing was like just color coded all over the place. I mean, it was just completely full. But to your point, I think it's defending that calendar and organizing it first. So each one of the tasks was, I'm not saying everyone this is a skill set, I think, that he learned, because he even shared, listen, I am naturally disorganized. He said, I'm this is not my natural tendency. And I think a lot of people aren't, but he just said, hey, my goal is to make sure I'm striving towards the goals I set out to in each one of the businesses. So I think number one is defending that calendar. But then one thing he did before he left the day, he would review tomorrow's calendar, for the day.
Yeah,
and so he already had the plan, like that at the end of the day, going, okay, I know what's happening tomorrow. So I don't kind of already wake up knowing what the day is going in ahead. One other thing is he spent about 10%, what he would call, kind of a buffer time, or I know other people have called it slush time, and you mentioned that, hey, you come in and there's emails, there's calls, there's, things that are unexpected that happen. And he just built that into kind of that calendar too, that gave some capacity for him to handle any of these, these fires or any of these unexpected things that come up in business, especially when you're running that type of that many businesses, which happens, right? And that can be an employee, that could be a customer, whatever it may be. So I also think building in some buffer time and that slush time. And I think people don't also build in the definitive time for reviewing emails, or, I think they just kind of leave that open. They put the bigger things on the calendar. And I know I've been victim of that too, but it's where are you defining? Some people might need that definition of the entire day to ensure that they're staying on task, and I think you're a lot more likely to hit it if you're actually writing it down or putting it on your calendar versus leaving it open.
I love it. So I think, that's work. And that's a part of our 168. So we kind of covered like some best practices for work, right? And what I hear you saying is, hey man, you're getting up early, you're engaged, you're energized, you're prioritizing your calendar, you're living by it, you're really managing your time, you're blocking things out, you're reviewing your calendar the day before, you're engaged in managing the chaos that can be your life in business, and you're putting time to how those things succeed. So I hear that, and I think that's awesome. Time management for me, both personal and business, come down to one thing. And for me, it comes down to my why. That's what it comes down to for me. My why is to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. No matter how you look at it, like no matter what I do, that's my why. Like, why am I here? To share about God. That's basically what it is. And I'm not a missionary. I'm not some great person, but I'm okay at business. And being okay at business and enables me to be able to give back. And I can give back to charitable and noble causes through my nonprofit called Enbridge. And so some of you might say, dude, why would you work 87 and a half hours during the work week and another 3 during the week? Well, I have a goal, and that goal is to put $1 million into the kingdom this year. $1 million into charity and noble causes. That's my goal. I am absolutely driven towards that. And my wife, my kids, like that's how we live, right? That's our why. Our why is backed up by that. So like when times are tough, we fall back to our why. And, not to get super crazy, but I believe that my work time comes back to the Bible, right? I'm going to look at the Bible and what I interpret from the Bible. And what I interpret from the Bible is, hey, man, I'm supposed to work hard, right? I'm a big believer in reading Proverbs, and I got to work hard. So I'm working hard day in and day out. I believe that I got to get up early. So as soon as that sun comes up, I got to be working, right? It doesn't say get up at 8 o'clock. It doesn't say get up at 9:30. It says, get up with the sun. And then I like to think of it like this, like God created the earth in 7 days. That's what I believe. And God said, hey, man, I built it in 6 and I rested on 7. So the whole thing took 7 days, right? So I'm a believer in following the model of God because I believe that, we are formed in God's image and God worked 6 days. So I believe for me, I'm going to work from sun up to sundown for 6 days. And so if you look at the pattern of my life, that's what I do. Sun up to sundown, 6 days. And the time that I spend with my family is thereafter. But I make sure that I have enough in my tank to lay down on the floor at night and play Legos with my son for an hour and a half. Or, watch a TV show with my daughter and go out on a date with my wife every week. And I look at the things that are important to me and I write them down and I'll share them with you. But my goals for the week are devotions with my kids and wife 5 days per week. I hit that every day this week. I hit it every day last week. Make the family breakfast on Saturdays. So I'm engaged. I'm hanging out. Get 1 date day per week. I'm a huge believer in this. I can't get a date night in because I have too many kids and don't live in a major city. And so what do? We know that we can sneak out for an hour and a half on Wednesday mornings at 8:30 to 10 o'clock, and we can go have coffee. We can go read a book. We can go for a walk. Those are things that are important to me. That's my time management. I'm defending and building these things in. Hey, what's your goal? Kiss my wife 10 times a day. How many times in marriage, like when you're dating, you'd want to kiss your wife 10 times in a day, right? You're like, get over here. And then you get married and it's like, oh, have you ever noticed, it's gone a day without a kiss or 3 days without a kiss, So my goal, kiss my wife 10 times a day. Hey, here's another goal. Take the dogs out in the morning because we got dogs. Take that burden off my wife's plate. And then, hey, here's number 3. Log all my food in the food app. These are things that are important to me. Make sure I'm eating healthy. I want to eat the most healthy and best things that I can do. So these are my weekly targets. And sometimes I add to those and sometimes I take away from those. Hey, Sundays is 100% with the family all day. We go to church, we go out to lunch, we play games in the afternoon, we have a great time. Hey, guess what another goal is? When we get home, we put that work phone down. When I'm in the house with them, I put the work phone down. I put it in another room. I don't touch it. Don't look at it. That's their time. A lot of times we play board games at night. We eat dinner at the table every night together. Unless we're watching in front of the TV, watching a show. But we never miss dinner together as a family. And then we play games. So we get like 2 or 3 hours of time as a family every single night before it's time to go to bed. But we never miss that. Whether we're reading stories or playing games or rolling on the floor or watching a TV show, we never miss our family time. So their tanks get filled up, right? I serve my family. I serve my business. I serve my religious commitments. And then I'm left with what's left over. And that's the job of being a man, right? I get the heavy burden. I get less sleep at night. You see these bags? Those are beautiful bags. I take pride in those bags.
They're well earned.
Because that means that I'm investing. They're right. I'm investing in my life, my family, and my business. And that's how I approach as an owner. And it's because of my why. I don't have to work 87 hours. I could easily work 40 and be good. I could work 20 and be fine. But I want to drive for something great. I always wanted to be great. And I always felt that, oh my, just a failure in business, just a failure. And what I learned was the one thing that I can be great at, and not to give myself any glory, because no glory to me, all glory to God. I don't want to be prideful, but that I can give of my time and I can give of my resources. And that's what I can do. And so Enbridge, changing the world, that's the mission of TransBlue, change the world. I can focus on it. That's why I drive. What about you, Todd? What's your best 168? What's your personal time management? How do you go about that?
It's similar. I mean, I think, we're talking about the goals, talking about definition of where you want to go. I think, we talked a lot about the business side, but the life side too. So spending, time with Katie, I mean, it's obviously we just started the new year, but essentially sitting down and saying, hey, what does that look like coming this year, right? So what are some of the goals that we want to have for the family, for each other, and then for the kids, right? And kind of defining that, even, hey, do we want to take a trip, or, what are some of the things we want to grow with? So I think sitting down there and then holding each other not accountable, because ultimately it's, hey, just reviewing that just like we do in business. But I love the fact of, for just defining where we're going in the business, but for the life side, hey, each day are we spending time? So my goal right now is similar. Hey, I got to spend time with my son. He's 11 years old. So for me is, hey, waking up, having time with my son, doing devotions with him and spending time with him before I get going in the day. At night, getting home and having those dinner times. So that's for me, with that, where I need to work on. And this is, just being honest, because I'm not perfect, is those date nights. So if Katie happens to watch this, she'll be like, yeah, why don't you, let's take a note there, and let's do that more often. But spending some valuable time there, because to your point, I think, at certain seasons, those may adjust and fly, but ultimately my why is obviously faith-based. That's one reason that I joined TransBlue, is because of your why, your vision of what you wanted. Right. And I think having a company that takes that obviously into account. And, we have a prayer group every morning. So part of that is 8:45, and having that time together that we pray as a business. Right. And trusting that, hey, God has a plan, and a bigger plan for all of us individually, but also for the company. So I think, again, that why and that purpose that you're driving for should define those activities and define the tasks throughout that. Now it's defining and reviewing that, and being disciplined in execution. I think that's the biggest key. We use, I think, the system, having a system and a management system, that's good for that. Everyone has different ways there's apps, there's, you mentioned logging your food in an app, and there's apps for time management too. I think one of the things, that is awesome that we use is the EOS model. And that's for the business side, but I think you can do the same for your life as well. And defining where you are. And one thing is every week there's certain to-dos or tasks that go under those quarterly goals, which are rocks in the OS system for those who know it. And now you're striving, defining, and prioritizing each of those tasks along the way. So I think it's day-to-day managing that, because, it's easy to kind of get off that path and go astray. And you can read all the statistics when you come through the new year on resolutions. And I think that they said that, I think the statistics, something like 85 to 90% of people who have a obviously a resolution at the beginning of the year is by the time middle of February or the end of February, they're already stopping those resolutions or have stopped that because of just, again, staying with it and executing the goals. So it's really that daily discipline.
Tough.
And I know just, working with you, obviously working alongside, and just the discipline that you come to every day, I think it's creating that habit and those disciplines every day to execute.
And there is so much more we could dive into. A great book, Atomic Habits, you can check out. Jack Daly, A Life by Design. He's the one that, I took the 168 from. So that's not my original idea. I'll just give Jack Daly a plug on that. But these are some tips for time management. This is how I go about my time management, right? And so it all comes back to what I am purposed for, what I believe I am for, and what I am passionate about, and what my cause is driven by. And those are the things that I'm going to live my time management based on, right? That's how I'm going to show up every single day. Ralph, throw in the question from last call, and then if we have anything new from here. So, how do I justify premium pricing for an annual contract over other contractors? This is a great tip. This was brought in at the end. I know it's not on the topic today, but I just wanted to get this in here because it's just a great question, and I love to just acknowledge the folks that do listen and do chat with us. So how do you justify premium pricing for an annual contract over other contracts? Great question. And I'm going to keep it super simple in the way that I do it. It's about overall value. So what's the value of the contract? What's the value that you bring to the table? A lot of times the lowest price comes with the most headaches. They don't show up on time. They don't show up on the same day. Their work is sloppy. They've got high turnover. They might not have the right insurance premiums. We're selling quality. Remember, that's what we always want to sell. We want to sell quality and professionalism, right? Because at the end of the day, the client wants one thing, and that's to have their life made as easy as possible. You want to provide them with peace of mind. And if you can provide them with peace of mind and you can make it as easy for them as possible, remember, they're also spending somebody else's money. And at the end of the day, a lot of times when they're doing that, or if it's a residential client, they're spending their own money. But I don't want to hassle. I will literally pay more if I know I don't have to hassle. I hate to follow up. I hate to ask, how are you doing? I hate to ask, when are you going to be done this? I hate to ask, did you not show up? And time management wise, I don't want to waste my time managing you, right? If you think about the annual revenue of your business and you divide that by 2,080, that's how much your time's worth. So if you're a $10 million company, your time's worth $5,000 an hour. If you have to spend an hour following up on the landscaper every week, what did that cost you? Cost you a lot of money, when if you just paid a couple dollars more, you can hire a guy that you're not going to have to worry about showing up. So that's how that goes. I rarely choose the low bidder in my own life and own circumstances. Most of the time I choose the high to mid high, just because I don't want to have to deal with the problems. And to be honest, I find that my projects usually have very, very minimal issues because I'm not choosing the guy that's the chuck in the truck. So anyways, help that answer. Todd, do you have any feedback?
Yeah, I think, just, you mentioned property managers or that customer, and the landscape contracting is just one of them, right? They're worried about other services as well. So you compound that with all the different, contractors and services that they're managing on that property, not to mention the tenants or their clients who they need it. So it's just, they're constantly on the go. So I think that time and money matter, but their time is very valuable. So I think just that value that you bring to save them that ease of mind.
Yeah, that's a great contribution. Listen, thanks for joining the call today. This was fantastic. Time management. Know your why. Use your calendar. Prioritize what's important. Set a routine. Be disciplined. And make time for your faith, your family, and your business. Those are the things to live and die by, in my humble opinion. If you liked this, give it a like. If you liked it, give it a share. Thank you for following us. Follow me, David Wescott, on LinkedIn, David Wescott on Facebook, The Real Dave Wescott on Instagram, and follow Todd on any of those channels as well. Thank you very much, and have an awesome day. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.